Hey there crew, it's Mark, and in today's video, we are gonna set up a brand new bullet journal for the second part of this year. We're at the midpoint. This is where new decisions happen all the time, and people take a look back on the first 6 months and think, is this solution working for me or not? Now, I have my bullet journal for work that I absolutely love. It's my favorite bullet journal that I've used so far, but I've been trying to find ways to kind of separate work and social media life. And to do that, I've actually used a few different type of solutions so far this year. And not that they're not good solutions, but they just weren't working exactly how I needed them to. Before we get into that setup, I just want to share kind of how I got to this point, because maybe you're in the same situation. So real quick, I've used 2 different planner systems in this first part of this year. It's like every few months, I'm like, let's try something a little bit different. So from January until about March, I used the Night Owl Planner. Now the Night Owl Planner is fantastic and I absolutely loved it. I fell in love with this last year and used it as a companion notebook to my other bullet journal. What I love about this is that it is pre-dated, and that really is what made me fall in love with this at first. It has great paper, you can use fountain pens, any type of pens or stationery that you want inside of it, and it was a really great way to kind of plan ahead and work in the now as well. What I really loved about this planner, and what really made me fall in love with this overall in the beginning, was that it was already pre-dated, which is something that I haven't really used before. It has the calendar pages in the front, so I can kind of future plan a little bit inside of there if I need to, write down really important dates. But what I really loved was the weekly view that I got on each of these. I feel like it has everything that I needed. It was able to break down time if I needed to. It had extra room for notes around the margins. For a while, I was using this with podcast editing and other video editing just as a place to jot notes. It was just kind of a throw everything at it, and I knew it was gonna work well. But while it worked really well for capturing those notes or kind of those dates, I still felt like I didn't have a place for some of the other things I needed, and I didn't know if I wanted to start a brand new notebook just for a single idea, or maybe try something a little bit different. So then right at the end of March and into April, Oops-a-Daisy actually sent me their hybrid planner, which I was super interested in because I thought, well, I can just make whatever I want inside of here. It has pre-dated options if I want to, blank paper, the paper quality, absolutely loved it as well. It was fantastic. And it kind of did the same thing that my other notebook was doing for me, from an ability to set dates in advance, write down notes if I needed to. And a real big use of my journal at my desk too, specifically with social media, is to remind myself around releases. So if something new was coming out from Ferris Wheel Press, I would put it in there on when I could talk about it or when the release date was. Or if there was a meeting coming up for my Archer and Olive Ambassador program, I could write that down. I also love that it had space for tasks and kind of everything could live inside of there. Now, I used this planner for a little bit, and overall, I really did enjoy it. I thought it was really doing what I needed it to do. But the problem, again, with the binders is that as a lefty, I found it hard to just easily write inside of the notebook. So I'd have to unclip it, take my paper out to feel comfortable, especially if I was writing long form inside of there. But other than that, I thought it was great. It captured tasks. I was able to pay attention to it, but I just still felt like something was just missing from the experience. And I couldn't really figure out exactly what it was. And then Bullet Journal sent me the Bullet Journal Pocket. And I said, okay, this might be the thing. I just really need to pay attention to notes, and I need to pay attention to what's coming up, and maybe daily logging is just right for me. And along with doing the review for the video, I also spent 2 weeks inside of this to see if this could work out for me. Now, what was interesting about this is that it is a pocket notebook, but this is a full A5 sheet of paper. And I said, let's go ahead and give it a go. So I did a whole setup, gave myself 2 weeks inside of here. I liked it, but the paper quality it wasn't where I needed it to be. This reminded me of the original bullet journal paper with like 70, 80 GSM paper. The ghosting just wasn't it. And I knew in my heart of hearts, as much as I wanted just to be okay with it, I just didn't love writing in it with anything darker than a pencil, because I knew that I was gonna see it on the other page, and I just felt very inefficient skipping whole half sheets of paper because I didn't wanna write on something that I could read the words on the other side. I think for the average person, this is a great option if you just want something quick and easy and jot it down. And if ghosting doesn't bother you, this maybe is it. But for me, it just wasn't it. And I knew it wasn't. So I just sat down and I said, Mark, What do you want? What do you need from this journal that you want to create? And I was just like, Mark, you know the answer to this. It's the same thing that you've been doing for 7 years. Just make yourself a bullet journal for your desk. And with my very large collection of notebooks, I definitely knew that I had a notebook that I could use. Now, the hardest part is picking which one. I've mentioned in previous videos that I built out a pretty extensive stationery catalog for myself inside of Airtable. I'll put the video link down in the descriptions below if it's something that you would want to set up for yourself. But what I love about this is I've cataloged every single notebook that I have in my collection. And so I was able to come through there and see what I had and what I wanted to use. And it just turned out that I happened to have 2 copies of the same notebook that I was really a big fan of. And it was this one from Archer and Olive and this past Halloween collection. And it's awesome. And I said, you know what, Mark? Let's go ahead and do it. Having set up multiple bullet journals in the past, I knew my process and what I had to do. And as always, I get so excited when setting up new notebooks because it gives me an opportunity to do something a little bit fresh. So my first step in setting up this notebook was to go ahead and think about what I wanted to put inside of this notebook. What was staying separate from my work bullet journal that was going to live inside of this new one. So I went ahead and grabbed a pen, I grabbed some sticky notes, and I just started to label each of the pages as I was going through. The bullet journal method has just been my tried and true ride or die for such a long time now. It only makes sense that I would continue to follow that process inside of this notebook. So the first thing we have to set up here is going to be an index for ourselves. And I'm going to give myself a few pages on there because I feel like this is probably a notebook I'll be using for a while. I'm going to set up a future log inside of here too. And again, because I have this space, I might as well set it up. And that's going to cover me through the rest of this year. And because of the layout, will give me an extra spot for any kind of future 2025 planning that I might need to do. I'm also going to bring my Instagram tracker and my YouTube trackers into this notebook as well. I'll be tracking for my Mark Your Pages account, but also on YouTube, I'll be tracking for the Planner Pals podcast too. I also have some monthly commitments that I need to hit for some of my affiliate programs that I'm a part of, specifically being on the Archer and Olive Ambassador team. There are blogs that I need to write for them, content that I need to create, and we also have monthly meetings where we talk about upcoming releases. So I'm going to have a dedicated page for that inside of this notebook too. I already keep all of my affiliate codes over on my website for easy access, but I wanted to keep track of them inside of this notebook as well. And then from there, I can go ahead and just start to set up my monthly. Similar to what I'm already doing inside of my work bullet journal, I can do that for my desk space here. Now, the big thing that I think is going to be different between my current bullet journal for work and how I do that versus here is that I don't know that I'll be doing weekly spreads necessarily, but I'm also not exactly sure just yet. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and just set up a monthly overview page as I would normally do, and then maybe start with daily logging and see how that works. And if I need to expand to a weekly, then I'll go ahead and do that then. One of my favorite things to do whenever I create a new bullet journal is start to give it a little bit of a theme, at least as I get it started, knowing that it will likely change over time. So to do that, I'm going to be using a collagraph color, and then I'm going to be using stamps on top of that for each of the headers. I don't always play around with color, but when I do, I like to have a little bit of fun, and I just love stamps so much, and I have so many of them. They're going to be an easy thing to use, and I really am excited to use them a lot more inside of this desk bullet journal. So to kick things off for the index, I'm going to go ahead and just draw this kind of organic looking shape with the collagraph pen. And then I'm going to use one of these stamps here that I have from rubberstamps.com. And since your index is kind of like the map to the rest of your bullet journal, it only made sense that I use a map on this one. Now, I also love fountain pens and I love fountain pen inks. So I'm also going to use a brand new ink from Ferris Wheel Press because I just thought the color was so incredibly nice. This is called Valiant Blue, and what I love about it is an awesome blue ink, but it also has some really cool like gold shimmer inside of it, just adding a little pop of flair. Now, I'm not going to fill up a fountain pen for this, but instead I'm going to use my Kakamori glass nib. This has been a nib that I've been trying to get for a very long time, and finally they released some maybe 4 or 5 months ago. I literally tried to be the first person on the website to ensure that I got this because it filled out my Kakamori nib collection, and I'm very happy about it. Now, the other thing I love about these nibs is I can get really cool nib holders, and one of my favorite companies to get them from is River City Pen Company. I got my first one from Amarillo Stationery a while ago when they collaborated together, and then recently I've just been falling in love with his work, and I was like, this is it. It's called Blue Steel. I decided for my headers, I'm just gonna kind of do a mix of two of the fonts that I always use, which is the tall short one. So you're gonna write a really tall letter and then a tiny one next to it. And then I also like to do fonts that just have like these open areas that I can color in this case. I also think that it'll show off this ink really well, so excited to use this. Each of my index pages are going to have two things. They'll have a topic area over on the left, and then over on the right-hand side, I'll be able to write in the page numbers that I have for each of these. I'll go ahead and add this title to the next two pages as well. I don't know that I'll be using all of these in this index. It really depends how long this one lasts. Now, one thing I was a little upset finding on the second page here is that the ink ghosted. It didn't quite bleed through, but it's kind of right there. I'm not sure why that happened with this ink. Every ink acts a little bit different inside of the notebooks, and specifically Arch and Olive notebooks. So I don't know that I'm gonna be filling in the letters anymore just to alleviate that. It does bother me a little bit, but I'm not gonna not use this notebook now because of it. I just have to be aware of it. The next page that we need to set up is going to be our future log. I have kind of this love-hate relationship with the future log where part of me is like, yes, I'm gonna use it. I know it's there, it's fine. But then found that in my work bullet journal, I wasn't using that as much, and I actually moved to creating a calendar version. So kind of mixing the planner and the bullet journal together. And that's working really well for me there for my work journal. But over here, we're just gonna go ahead and keep it simple. So I'll go ahead and break this page up into 8 different spots, 4 on the left, 4 on the right. So continuing with that theme, we'll go ahead and draw that kind of organic looking shape here at the top with the collagraph. And then from the same set, from rubberstamps.com, I have an airplane, future log airplane. I mean, it all makes sense to me. One of my favorite stamp makers this year has 100% been Everyday Explorers. Every single time a new set comes out, I'm like, did you make this for me? So we're going to be using the Save the Date stamps. This just has a bunch of containers and dates and months and everything on here that we're going to need. So I'll be using these kind of blackout ones across the top here real quick. Now, technically, I should have started my future log in July since June is the first month that we're using this, and you're not gonna use a future log for your current month, but I had a handful of things that I wanted to move over that I wasn't ready to put inside of the monthly yet, so it just made sense for me. Usually I keep my Instagram trackers in my main bullet journal, but now that I'm kind of separating work and social media and home stuff, I think it makes a little bit more sense for it to live inside of this notebook. Now, I've had a long love with Instagram trackers inside of my bullet journals. I've been doing it from my very first one all the way through. So I love finding creative ways to make these trackers a little bit more fun. The first thing we need to do is we need to set up this header. So I'll go ahead and do the same thing. We have a camera stamp here that I think works very well for Instagram. We'll go ahead and fill out the tracker here with our ink and our pen, not coloring in those letters. Using another stamp from that Save the Date collection, I really love this page with the paperclip on it. One of my big reasons is I love having space on my page where I can write the big number that we're trying to achieve and then have like a small area for the date that I hit that goal. I've mentioned this in previous videos. I'm all about celebrating those small wins. Those add up to the big, gigantic, exciting ones. And I just love it as a small tracker that I can go through myself and track my growth over time. I did some spacing real quick to make sure that this would work out and be nice and even. So we're going to have 9 boxes total, 3 vertically, and then we're gonna have 3 rows horizontally across here. Right now on Instagram, I'm at like right about 38,000. So I'm gonna go ahead and just start this tracker at 40. I know that I have some space to go for this. It's totally okay, but that's kind of like my next big goal that I wanna hit, and then just continue to work from there. I'm gonna be using my number stamps from Endless Stamps. What I love about these is that they just easily clip together. So I'll go ahead and just put together 4, 0, and 1, and then I can put the period between the 0 and the 1 myself with a pen. So this tracker here will take us from the 40,000 mark to 41. It's 1,000 followers, and I'd like to say that usually that's a very slow going piece as it is right now. I've been at the same follower count for like 2 months, but then sometimes I'll make videos like this or make a new tracker and just put it out in the universe. The next thing you know, I like blow through that tracker. But for right now, I feel very confident I have a ways to go, that it's gonna take time to fill this out, and I'm totally okay with that. The YouTube tracker is gonna get the same header as everything else, using the collagraph for the shape, writing in the YouTube tracker with my ink and pen, and then using a stamp over top of it. So I'm gonna go ahead and track both of these for the next several months and just have a lot of fun with it. Again, there's no major goal that I'm trying to hit. There's always like the big number that we're reaching for, but more than anything, I just like to track growth over time. Just a weird data thing that I like to do. For Mark Your Pages, we're gonna go ahead and start at 21.4 thousand, and then we're gonna go ahead and just grow that up until we get to the 24,000 mark. So the unit of measurement is every 200 new subscribers on YouTube. For the Planner Pals podcast, we are slowly growing, but growing nonetheless. This is gonna start at 2.2 thousand, and we're gonna work up towards a 5,000 subscriber goal. Because we're right here at the end of the month and I always track the end of the month data point, we'll start this in June, but we'll actually be filling this all the way out through the rest of the year. And I had some extra space, so we'll follow it until April if this notebook lasts that long. The next page that I'm going to create is the one for the Archer and Olive Ambassador team. And the great thing is that I just went and organized all of my stickers in my previous video. And in this one, I was able to find stickers easily, and we're going to use those for our headers this time just to mix it up a little bit. I had this sticker set from their anniversary collection that they sent out. So we're going to stick a little cat here at the top. And then I'm going to use pencil first just to make sure that everything fits. I sometimes have a bad habit of writing too big and running out of space. So pencil before pen is always the way to go. The purpose of my collection page for the Archer and Olive Ambassador team is two-part. The first is that monthly I have obligations to write a blog post and create video content for them as a part of the Ambassador team. And also I wanted a place to put new releases to remind me. I'll probably write those in pencil since sometimes things change, but overall this will be kind of my one spot for that. So I remember to do my tasks, but also remember what's coming up in new releases. I'll set this page up to start in June because there are new releases and there are going to be blog and video content that I need to make for June all the way up through November. I'll add an extra little cat down here in the bottom just for that celebration and because I have it. And then over on the right-hand side is where I'll put our notes for our monthly meetings. Now, after I made my Archer and Olive collection page, I realized, Mark, you also have monthly obligations for Ferris Wheel Press. So Ferris Wheel Press is also going to get their own collection page inside of this journal. But it's going to look a little bit different. So the header, of course, has to get some beautiful Ferris Wheel Press ink, and also we got to put an ink bottle in there too, since that's a lot of what I get as a part of this program. I'm going to use a similar layout to what I did for Archer and Olive. However, I gave myself a little bit more space just by making some smaller boxes here, and this will actually cover me for the next 10 months. Now, most of the product that I get from Ferris Wheel Press is inks, so I have this fantastic ink set, again from Everyday Explorers. And so my goal here is going to be doing small little swatches underneath each of these for the month, as well as writing down the dates that they're being released so I can easily remind myself when I do those, and also remind myself to create content monthly for each of the different products that come out too. Because there are so many dates, instead of writing them all in here, I'm gonna go ahead and just use this sticker set that I have from Oops-a-Daisy, and this is just gonna have each of the months going all the way down. We're gonna do this from June all the way until March of next year. The next collection page is going to be for my affiliate codes. I have a number of codes with different brands that I like to use and like to offer out to you. Now, again, I have them all bookmarked for myself just to be able to get access to those on the back end. And I list every single affiliate code and link that I have over on my website at markyourpages.com/codes. However, sometimes, especially when I'm creating content, I don't want to have to go into my phone or whatever to remember the codes because they are different for each of the different businesses. Because I have codes for notebooks, pens, and inks, we're gonna add them into the header here for something a little bit different. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna write out each of the different brands and the specific code that I have for them. Like I mentioned, I try to keep them consistent, but everyone has a different naming structure that they use. Sometimes it's Mark Your Pages 10, sometimes it's just Mark Your Pages, sometimes it's nothing even close to those things. But I have them all listed here, and again, if you want to check out those links, I'll put them down in the descriptions for you below. I always appreciate the support using those, and I love giving you that discount money off of your products too. All right, the very last thing that I'm gonna set up today is just going to be that monthly overview page for myself. So I have a June stamp that I'm gonna go ahead and just put here at the top, and then I'm gonna do the classic bullet journal monthly overview. It's gonna have the dates first going down the page, and then the day of the week next to that as well. I'm drawing out some quick lines just to separate out the weeks. I don't always use these monthly overview pages, but I thought let's get back into the method a little bit, especially inside of this notebook. So this page will be used to bring anything from the future log that needs to happen, but maybe isn't happening this week. And also this is a great page to capture things that have happened on those days as well. So it's a little bit of a mix of a future log and a currently happening memory keeping space, and I think it'll be pretty good. The other thing I'm going to do over on the right-hand side of that page is to separate it out, and I'm going to create an intention space and a reflection space. This is actually something that I did in a previous bullet journal, and I really liked this practice. It kind of gives you a little bit of motivation for the thing that you want to accomplish that month, and then at the end of the month, you can come back, take a look through, read through what happened there, and reflect. Did you hit the goals that you wanted? Did something cool happen? Did something not super cool happen? And you want to focus on it for the next month. So a great little reflection space for myself in here. And again, we'll see how well this goes for just short form journaling. I'm not ready for long form just yet personally. The other thing that I want to do inside of this bullet journal is just have more fun. So using some things like currently ink stamps or different pens that I'm currently using. It's something that I just don't find the need to really use inside of my work bullet journal because it doesn't really mean anything there, but I can have a lot more fun inside of this notebook, tracking and kind of cataloging what I'm using and when. It just creates a little bit of a more fun, different need for my bullet journal than my work bullet journal. The last thing that I have to do, because this is an Archer and Olive notebook, is I have to add my own page numbers. It's okay, I'm used to doing it by now, but I am an avid user of my index. I think it is the brain of the operation. It helps me easily find the information that I need, and I need page numbers to do that. So I'll go ahead and add each of those, and then I'll go ahead and just set up my index. We've got our future log on pages 1 and 2, our Instagram tracker on page 3, YouTube tracker on 4, we have the collection page for Archer and Olive 5 and 6 first, we'll press on 7, affiliate codes on 8, a June overview on 9 and 10. One of the biggest reasons why I leave that extra space on my index is that realistically, I will probably need more pages, especially for the ambassador team, because there'll be a lot more notes and things I need to write down. I'm feeling really good about where this notebook is and what it's going to do for me here. It has a purpose. I love that I can customize it and make it what I need to make it in here. And it's not that those other notebooks and planners weren't it. I love the Owl Paper Planner. I think it's one of my favorite planners out there, and I just love the company as a whole. But for me right now, it just wasn't quite working out for me. Same thing with the Oops-a-Daisy Hybrid Planner. I think for someone who likes rings, for someone who likes, filling those with different pieces, it probably works out really well. Again, I loved the paper, I loved writing it, I loved what it did, but it just wasn't right for me at this moment. And the pocket notebook, it probably could have worked, maybe, but I just didn't like that ghosting, and it just bothered me every single day. And I thought, you know what, Mark, why are you upset? You have plenty of notebooks. Like, you know how to make this happen, man. Like, don't force yourself into this. Let's just go into a bullet journal, a notebook that you know and trust, and let's just, be happy and be productive about it. This mid-year point is a really important milestone for a lot of us planners. We're able to take a moment and look back on the past 6 months to see what's working and what's not working as a part of our system. I've had a great opportunity to try out several different methods this year to get me to this point to say, I love pieces of those, but it's just not all working for me. So in my case, the best thing to do is just create the notebook that I want and that I need. Yes, it's going to take a little bit more manual creation to do that, but I really love it. And I love the cover of this notebook. I just love everything that's happening right now. So I'm excited to continue to use this. Of course, we'll be doing the recap in a few months to see how well that's working for me. And I'm also hoping that maybe this will inspire me to get back into doing weekly plans with me's or monthlies or just something different outside of my work bullet journal. We'll see what happens. No promises just yet, but I cannot wait for it. I'm really excited to hear from you if you're making any changes to your planner lineup for this mid-year review. Are you thinking about something new? And if you are, make sure to drop it down in the comment section below. I love to hear from you. I know the community loves to hear from you as well. So we can't wait to read more. And my friends, I'll talk to you next time. See ya.